Okay, hi guys. This is the process we're on worksheet number 1, number 17, and I'm just going to do a handful of these videos just to kind of remind ourselves of the process of trying to figure out the sequence, okay? And then ultimately, you have to look and you have to see patterns, and that's really what the big problem is that we get used to just things kind of slapping us in the face, so we don't really have to worry about looking for them. But in these ones, you do have to look for patterns. So if you notice, I left the problem here, but I also just left the answer here so that it's there. The reason I sent you the answers in advance is that sometimes having the answer, then you can kind of work backwards. And I know that doesn't exactly help you on a test, but it does help while you're working through your homework. Okay, so as we did on our notes in class, you're going to try to kind of write things so that they are following the same format. And you notice that, of my terms here, 2 of them are not fractions, but then 3 of them are. So I'm going to try to rewrite these as fractions. So my first term, I'm just going to rewrite it as a negative 3 over 1. And I'm actually going to put my negative just on top because it actually, since every single one of them is negative, every term is negative, it's all right to just pick one or the other. And usually your numerator, if you notice, you've got 4 of them, right, are actual 3's. So you've got a negative 3 over a 2. Now I'm going to skip the third term just for a second and then go on to my fourth term, which is a negative 3 over a 5, and my fifth term, which is a negative 3 over, fourth term was a negative 3 over 4, and my fifth term is a negative 3 over 5, okay? And that continues. Now the reason I skipped this term here, the middle one, the third term, is because you might think that we would write it as a negative 1 over a 1 because we just want it to be a fraction, and you can start with that. But if you look, every single numerator is a negative 3 except for this one right here. So what you're really going to do is, how can I rewrite that with a numerator of negative 3? And in order for me to do that, of course it's not going to let me do that. It's not going to let me erase. All I'm going to do is actually change this to a negative 3 over a 3. Which would, again, if I looked at it, it would reduce down to a negative 1. So then when we go to write our explicit formula for our nth term, we write what's the same, and if you notice, in every single one of them, we got a negative 3 in the numerator, so that's what's the same, okay? And so the negative 3 shows up there, and then you look at what's different, right? And what's different is the denominator. Now, you can see that we can all add, we're adding 1 every single time. And you can take the time to go through and do your explicit formula where you've got, okay, let me make this a little bit smaller. There we go, okay? Where you have that term is going to be the first plus n minus 1 times the common difference. And again, it's first term, right? This is our explicit formula for an arithmetic sequence. First term, n minus 1 times the common difference. And if you do the little bit of algebra, what ends up happening is this will look like a 1 plus an n minus a 1. Guys, those two, that 1 and negative 1 is going to cancel out. So then you're just going to have an n in the denominator. Okay? And so that's actually going to be your answer. And remember, these are for n greater than or equal to 1.